Hey everybody, I hope everybody's well, enjoying the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle. If you haven't seen the bundle yet, go check out the link in my bio. There's over 400 recipes, 40 contributors. There's so much in the bundle, and the bundle is only available for another day. So today I'm going live with Fruity Eva, and we're going to share about our journey. And Eva is also in the bundle. She is in the appetizer book, the ebook. She's got recipe in there. So let's. Hey,
Hey, how are you?
good. How are you?
Also, yeah, it's in the morning. It's 9 in the morning, but it's nice. It's like a good start into the day.
Oh, that's good. It is. It's always nice to start on like a feel-good high, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this interview. I already joined once you were talking at the Fruity Friday, and I joined it, and it was so interesting. So I'm so happy and excited for this interview or this live video today. And yeah, just hear a little bit more about your story because it's so fascinating and inspiring. So yeah,
Oh,
it's really exciting.
oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked that talk. That was like I really went into a lot of detail in that talk, but I
Yeah,
wanted to do that so people actually knew how dramatic raw foods can make your life.
yeah. And I'm so, because the thing is, I went raw vegan a couple of years ago, but I never had a terminal illness. It was more out of curiosity. And then I just felt so good, so I stick with it. So I'm always curious to hear about people who really healed illness or certain things with the power of raw food. Yeah, it's really exciting.
I'm so glad that you've stuck with it. Like it's to go through what I went through is horrendous, and to know that people can eat raw foods and not even have to even go a little bit close to that.
Yeah,
Um, it's like that's why I share what I share, because like especially around kids, I want kids to know about raw foods, because when I was younger, imagine if I started raw foods when I was little, I truly believe I would not have gone through any of that.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. No, I also, that's also why sharing about raw food is such a big passion of mine because I really think that the information needs to get out there. And I think it's kind of a privilege if you know and if you understand and if you stick with it, because it really is so many people don't know it. And also, I was raised on a standard German diet. I'm from Germany,
Yep.
but it's
Yep.
really super unhealthy as well, like a lot of dairy, a lot of meat. So yeah, that's why I'm really passionate about it to help people with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. Keep that passion, because I don't know whether it's something about the raw foods makes you feel so good. You just want to sing about it, right? Like you just want to get out there and tell people about it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, it's really, I think I remember when I started, I was trying it out for a couple of days and I just felt so good, like a weight was lifted from my body.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really awesome.
You know what? If I like, there's things where, if I have too much dehydrated food or something, it can have the same effect as cooked food,
Yeah,
for me. And it sends me before even my symptoms come back now. So at the start, I couldn't function. Now,
yeah,
what is so prevalent to me is how dark it is. Very quickly, there's a darkness, and what it feels like is, and it's someone actually said this is probably why I'm so well with raw foods, is I guess when you go back there, your brain starts functioning on, say, like firing neurons in the brain, like the memories of when you felt like that before. So all the flooding of all the sickness comes back before. There's nothing wrong with me. I'll be running and I'll be like, this is so heavy. Like people
yeah,
are living in darkness.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I also think that when you eat raw, everything is really a lot more raw and a lot more fresh. But
Yeah.
I think a lot more intense as well. Like I made the experience over the years, when you go through something emotionally, you can use coping mechanisms such as alcohol or cooked food as well. You can cope with cooked food by overeating. And but when you're raw, I mean, I don't drink, I don't take any drugs, I cooked food. I don't eat really, so it's just a lot. Is like the emotions are a lot more intense, more raw. But also, I think in the long run, it's better because you can really heal when you, yeah, when you really feel the emotion, you can let it go, and you don't need to bury it with any coping mechanisms that in the end will harm you. Like if you drink too much, in the end it will harm you in the long term. So yeah, I think it's a gift, the raw food.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that's what happens is people try to numb it, but we don't realize how strong cooked food is. Like if I had a mouthful now, it's so stimulating. And
Yeah,
that's why when you've got something going on, if you eat, a pasta dish which has like great memories with it, you will feel better from the salts and the oils, but also you'll be like, that comfort of you've always eaten this on a cold night and this is warming you up. Like a lot, you can reframe that with raw foods. And I find with raw foods, I think it's scary for people to have no crutches, right? No
yeah,
alcohol,
yeah,
no cooked food. But your mind becomes clearer, and over time, your ability to move through things is like tenfold, maybe 100-fold. It's so fast. Like I think when you heard my story,
yeah,
is there was a period of time where I could literally not think for years. Like my brain, it was like chronic fatigue. They called it neurological functional disorder. It was
yeah,
like having a stroke where I couldn't move things. It was like everything had gone offline. It was all just too much. And to know, I was very conscious during that I was dysfunctional. Like you're very aware that you want to grab a fork but you can't. And then to go onto raw foods and start to be able to not only grab the fork but to grab the fork, knife, be able to wash them and put them away in a drawer,
yeah,
and then from there be a chef. Like I can't tell people what type of miracle that is. Like it really, it's like my hopes was that I could, sit up and use the fork and not be in pain anymore. But to sit up, use the fork, create an ebook, have business, swim in the ocean in summer, in winter, it's incredible, right?
yeah, yeah, I agree so much. And for those of you who don't know, because what is actually your story? Like, maybe some people know that you have had, I think you have 32 years of being
Yeah.
sick. And can you give just a short or overview how it was to be sick and how you came to the raw food diet? Like, how did you know about it? Yeah, would be so curious to know about it.
Sure. So I was, as I'll share with everybody else, I was sick from when I was about 8, like basically bedridden sick when I was sick. Sometimes I'd
Yeah,
get up, so then I'd get well for say like 3 or 4 years, but then from 15, 16, basically bedridden with mystery illnesses, congenital diseases, chronic pain, perforated ulcer. I've had 5 major organs removed, massive doses of medications, over 60 operations, like my stomach's missing, more of my GI tract's missing, like been through menopause. I felt like, and all of this, I can't get up. I can't do anything. And when I could get up, there were times where I would go out with my friends and then drink to cope and then be in bed for literally 2 weeks.
yeah,
Like it was so my life, how my brain functioned for most of my life was and you understand why bed was so, like, it was the only place I knew, is because if I was to go to the beach, someone said, let's get you to the beach, or it's a birthday party at the beach for your sister, can you come? My brain would go, right, I need this amount of medication, I need a hot water bottle, I will last about 40 minutes and then I'll need sugar, I'll start to black out. If I got a blanket, mum, will the car be close? That's how my brain thought, right? Even thought, stress, like it's flight or fight. It's
yeah,
how are you going to survive? And the only relief I would get from going to the beach per se would be to get back into bed.
yeah,
That's how I lived most of my life. And no doctors, the best doctors, had a family that loved me, spent, I would say, close to $1 million to get me better.
yeah,
I guess that makes the story of me at 40 using supermarket fruit and vegetables. So I'll progress a little bit longer along. So this just went on, surgeries, doctors, not being able to get up. And then I actually lost, like I had like a nervous breakdown and lost a part of my memory of all the trauma.
yeah,
And I came through that and went paleo, and
yeah,
was doing what I say well. Everyone was happy for me. This was in 2018. Then at the end of that year, I got shingles through the eye, and that's when I couldn't walk, talk, had to have carers again. Went to a neurological hospital to do that. Then I was in a psychiatric unit, acute wards, nine hospitalizations, and one of them was for like 10 months. I had just someone caring for me all the time. I couldn't function. When I kind of went paleo, then the shingles, I went vegan. And I went vegan because it's like, I call it a spiritual awakening. When I lost my mind, I feel it like it was reality hit like a ton of bricks, and I couldn't process it. But the vegan part was like, why am I eating things that have a face? Like the feeling was so heavy that I couldn't literally put it in my mouth. Hey, Daniel.
Hey.
That's when I went vegan, because truly the thought was like, why am I eating someone's babies? Like it was literally like that. I can't pick that and eat it. So I came through that, and my health got worse when I went vegan. So my protein levels in my blood stopped being, proteins in my blood stopped being made. I was eating a ton of protein. I was eating like they said you can add more, but it's not nutritionally, you don't need to. Then I finally got out of all this. I still wasn't functioning well. They had me functioning at some sort of level. And then I started drinking to cope with everything. It did slow the memories down. There was no purpose. I knew the purpose to the alcohol was literally, it felt like less burden. And then I was like, I've got a couple of years of this. No, within 2 months I was in hospital. My liver wasn't functioning properly, more infusions. Yeah. And my mum and dad, mum has Lyme's, so she's unwell. And it became too much for my family. Like I'd always lived at home. Yeah. So they helped me get my own place. Well, I was kind of homeless for a bit there. Like there was so much going on. But anyway, they helped me get a place. And when I lived at home, I could only make really basic foods. I'd never lived out of home. So I was doing like dry roasted pumpkin with like tomatoes, garlic and rosemary, or that was like, would be something that I'd be able to just put in the oven, no oil. I'd eat that and I would still be unwell. Like I'd go back to bed for like 4 days. Yeah. But at this time it was easier to eat fruits and like have a salad. By this time I literally knew eating plant-based, the nutrients were making me feel better. So as coming up, still I had, once I moved out, I think I drank 3 more times. But the next day it wouldn't be like bad food. I'd be craving these like really basics, like some sort of nutrient. My body was literally I was really tiny. So, what I noticed is when I was having the salads and the fruits, I could go out to the like clothesline and I could hang some clothes out. And I was like, this is incredible. Like to do it was amazing. And then if I would have like black beans and maybe some, cauliflower rice type thing and cooked tomatoes, that's really basic, I would be backwards again. And so I went on, I don't know whether I went online first or I actually just asked myself, Skye, what are you willing to do? I think I knew I couldn't read properly, but Instagram I love because of the pictures. And I started to see raw vegan pictures of food. So I'd worked out that I was cognitively functioning really basically. Yeah. So I'd worked out I was raw vegan. What I was doing was called raw veganism. So as I did that, I just got I got so well so quickly. It was like, you saw the photo of me. It was within 6 weeks. Yeah. Having a blood test, just about all of my problems had gone. I was still anemic and I still had liver problems, but everything was rising. So my markers were all rising and I just felt amazing. Like I felt incredible. So like you know what, I remember the thing that sticks with me most is when I was 16 and the pain in my stomach came back. So I remember I was sick when I was little, and then at 16, so I had pain, and I was at my grandma's who would look after me because my parents worked, so she was minding me. I remember laying there going, Skye, you're going to get through this till next week because viruses, bugs, bacteria only last a week, so you've got to get through this now. And so it stayed with me till I was like 40. So it was like, it was horrible. Like it was really horrible. And now I live in heaven. Like my life is like, it's more than perfect. I could not have dreamed up the life I live now.
Oh, that's so fantastic to hear. Thank you so much for sharing. But I cannot imagine how hard it must be, like all those years. And because for me, when I'm sick, my mood is so bad. I'm like, I don't like this. And I can imagine how it is to be years in pain. So I'm really grateful that you found raw food and that it helps you. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that raw food is actually really powerful. I think that many people don't know how much raw food and fresh food, like fruit and veggies, can actually help your health. And I think
Mm.
that is so great that people like you exist to share this message. And yeah, I think I saw you first actually watching an interview with you on YouTube, like I think a year
Oh
ago or
yeah.
something like that. Yeah, and I was like, wow, that is so fascinating. So thank you so much for doing what you do and for sharing everything, because I think you will help so many people. Because I think that me, like, I never had a life-threatening disease, so I cannot really talk about it. And but I think when people like you they shared this message, people can actually listen and can see, hey, this is real. This really helps eating raw food.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. What I think you're missing here is that you went raw without a catalyst. And to me, I think there's a strength in that. So I promise you, if someone came to me with this diet when I was 16 and in pain, I would have seen it as a means to an end. So I did. So I went to naturopaths and they put me on diets, not raw, but plant-based,
Yeah,
cooked, very basic. And I did feel better, but never did it was, I wanted to feel better to do what my friends were doing, right? Is there was no way I was staying on this for the rest of my life. That wasn't even an option.
yeah,
I think you have like a really strong power inside of you to go raw without death creeping up, right?
yeah.
Is it's easier when death's there, you're like, I die or I do this, but you're actually there saying that I'm not even going. That's what I want for people. Is I don't want people to get anywhere
Yeah,
near where I got.
yeah,
You don't have to go there. You can do this now. But in the world, this is how I see it, right? The world is so stimulating. It's so overstimulating that I mistook for my entire life. Happiness is stimulating of the lights, stimulating of food,
yeah,
stimulating of, in the end, it was not feeling pain that made me happy. I didn't know true bliss and happiness until raw foods cleared the way. And then it was like I could see. And that to me, obviously I needed to go through a lot, but you did it without having to go through that. And see, I think there's a strength in that. I think I wish I could have done that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't know. I have to say, because for me, I never had a disease. So for me, I had a lot of struggles like with family, friends, because I'm from a really conservative small village originally. So eating raw food is so crazy to people. So I think I had
Yeah,
a lot of like struggles with that. But I think now I got better, and I think now veganism also becomes more popular.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
but it's been a journey. But actually, what I also wanted to talk about, because you wrote this amazing book that is inside the Ravian bundle. It is called The Classics
Yeah.
Roar, and I think it was the first book that I opened from the Ravian bundle, and I was like, this is so great. Like it's so beautiful, and I think you really have a gift in design, in creating beautiful ebooks.
Oh,
So yeah, I think it's really because I know I also created ebooks in the past, and I know how much work it is
yeah.
to actually make a beautiful ebook. So I think I can really appreciate it because
Oh,
it's so beautiful. Yeah.
thank you.
So
That means so much to me. It really does. You know, I feel like we become what we eat, right? Well, I know what we become what we eat
yeah,
is, I ate the raw foods and I became well. And when I look at the things, the food that I create, I like to think that it becomes me, and then I get to present it re again. So, like I might make the pizza, the raw pizza, and then I eat it, and that, the energy of that then allows me to create the book. So it's like
yeah.
that beautiful cycle that's going on. Oh, that means so much to me. Thank you.
You're so welcome. No, it's really great. And for those, for the people who have not gotten the bundle already, definitely get it. It's so amazing, beautiful recipes. You have e-courses. You have Skye's amazing ebook that I personally think just the ebook alone is worth it to
Oh,
buy the bundle.
thank
No, really, like it's really, really beautiful. I think that's one of my, now everything is great, but it's one of my favorites for sure. Yeah, it's really
oh, thank
good.
you. That means so much.
Definitely.
Also, I don't know how much of it you've seen, is you probably see, and I spoke about it at the presentation about how I don't eat at the moment nuts or and there's nothing wrong with them. It's just and you that reflects in my book. So there's no
Yeah.
nut seeds
Mm.
and there's I think I used some dehydrated onion and some dehydrated tomato in 2 recipes. The rest is all fresh because I think with raw foods and we all are in different places in the world. We've all been through different things. So we've got to
Yeah.
do what works,
Yeah.
works for us. So, and I was
Mm.
even talking earlier today on a live about how when you get these recipes, a great thing to do is just, if you don't have something available, swap it for what you do have available,
Yeah.
make it work for you.
Yeah, I love that so much, and I think it's so great because, like what we do on social media. I mean, I'm talking with you. I'm German, but I'm right now in Spain. But you're from Australia, so it's
Yeah,
just so cool to connect with people all around the world. So I think as well that, for example, maybe we have some food that people in Australia maybe don't have, or you have some food that
right.
we don't have. So it's great to swap it. But I think that's also the beauty of raw food. You can really swap things out and like make your own creations with recipes is so flexible and so yeah, and it still will taste good. I think that's really, really great.
I believe
Yeah.
that too. I believe that it's hard with raw. Well, you get your senses back when you start eating raw. So I almost get stomach pains if I'm not supposed to have something before I eat it.
Yeah.
Like not the real stomach, like some sort of intuition or how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to eat, be in nature and sense foods and see foods and be attracted to them or repelled by them. And I feel that comes back that even with recipe creation is if something I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, no, that's going, oh, that's drawing me in, I'll put lots of that in. And that you have to do that. If you're not meant to be having tomatoes on this day, then you put something else in place. It's not it's still all raw food tastes really good and your taste buds change. Like how celery, for example, tasted all of those years as I knew it
I
is
know.
so different to how it
I
tastes, like
know.
completely different.
I know. For me, it's the same. For me, because I mean, this journey, I've been doing it so long. Like I started when I was 12. I went vegetarian, so it's a really slow process, really, really long. And I remember the first time I made a green smoothie. It was a couple of years ago. I was making like spinach and the green smoothie, and then I was trying it. It was like, wow, this is so disgusting. And then I gave it my to my brother. He was like, no, this is so disgusting. And now I love it. Like now, if I drink a green smoothie, I'm like so vibrant. So it does take time. It does take time for your taste buds to change. Yeah.
And also people need to respect the process as well. Like
Yeah.
I at about 12, I wonder if it's to do with kind of maturing and becoming like as you grow up is you sense things differently because I remember I was never a big meat eater. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say strict vegetarian, but most of since I was about 13 or 14, I really didn't like meat. As in, like, the only thing I could kind of have was mince if it was really chopped up and, like, or some chicken,
Yeah.
or most of the time it was vegetarian. So these journeys are long, aren't they? Like, and you've got to respect where you are as well. Like,
I
I
agree.
feel like when you're a vegetarian, you can't see as a raw vegan sees. So you want to get somewhere, right? But it doesn't mean that look how a raw vegan sees the world is different to how a vegetarian, but you can't jump. I call them
Yeah.
levels, right? You've got to
Yeah.
climb these levels, earn these levels. And so that's you just got to work with where you're at and respect it too, because it's hard. What is so hard is doing all of this in this society. And I truly believe you would have been up against a battle and probably still are as to eating raw foods in a world where, as I always say, 99.99999% of people just
Yeah.
not only don't eat that, they eat completely different. Like,
Yeah.
so that is like, it's all part of the journey that we're on. So it
Yeah.
gives you a strength, right?
It gives you strength, but I think it's also a practice. And as you said, you really have to always, each person is so different, has a different background. So you always have to start where people is at. So for example, if someone already grew up on a very healthy diet, you can already say, okay, you already like fruit and veggies. So you can already, okay, this is the next step. But for example, when someone has maybe 20 years just eaten basically junk food or fast food or McDonald's, you cannot just say, okay, tomorrow you go raw vegan. Like there's a process in it. And I think it's important that there is a process in it because
Yeah.
as you said, I think some things in life you cannot skip. Like there's a learning curve in it, how to do it. And you cannot just go from here to here. You really have to walk all of those steps. I think
Yeah.
so.
I
Yeah.
agree. We come from a world where, like we see on video games, you can skip levels, jump levels, die, get a new
Yeah.
life, all of these type of things. But truthfully, as I was saying, you can't skip. It's like an earning. It's like karma. It's like you're
Yeah.
doing the light work. You're becoming enlightened. You're seeing like love, self-love, and you've got to elevate. And I can't see how a fruitarian sees, or someone who's, maybe a monk who lives away and does
Yeah.
raw foods in just nature. I don't see at that level, but I don't think that I would appreciate, to be honest, I appreciate where I'm at because of where I've walked. So I truly think we have to respect where we walk, and you can't look at someone else's journey and say, well, that person went through more than that person. You don't know what sort of
Yeah.
battles
Yeah. People.
people are through,
Yeah.
but know that after each battle, you always gain a strength. Like I promise you, what I have seen, the darkness I have seen, and just hold on. You will come through it. You will if you hold on, and then at the end you become stronger from it.
I agree. I agree so much. Actually, because one thing that you said in the Fruity Friday talk that really stuck with me was you said that you were always really interested in psychology, right? That's something you wanted to study, and I
I
wanted to know. And I feel like you know so much in that area, and it's just something that I just the couple last 2 years got really interested in. I mean, I don't study it, but it's just really interesting, and it helped me so much to understand myself better and to navigate life as a young adult. So it's just so great that you are yeah that you but you have that interest, right, in therapy and psychology or
I I went and did 5 years of psychology
oh
at
wow.
university when I was sick, but it was only part time when I tried to do it, and most of the time I'd end up sick or in hospital and had
Yeah.
to leave. But it doesn't take away the fact that every spare moment I was not sick, my head was in psychology books. So that's where I think it comes from. I, yeah, I see psychology in everything. I see a lot of us intertangled into webs we don't need to be in. So even so the person I was when I studied was like, you know, this is gospel, this is what this says, this is what's going on with people. But what I've seen now is a lot of it is we're all very locked up, chasing a battle which is self-propelling. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
we've got it. It's better to be the psychologist and step out and look at what's going on as opposed to think that we need psychologists to feed a loop. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
love psychology. I love thinking about it. I love watching people, but as an observer, I think, and then you start to see that people are very locked up in cycles, and the more you talk and think about that problem, you stay there.
Yeah.
um, that's what I've learned. Is before I was like, nope, the only thing that would do it would be therapy or medications. Now what I've realized is sometimes stepping back and away from a situation into your own, I guess it's like meditation, and that self-awareness is probably the better than any therapy that I could ever think of. I mean, I've been in therapy, psychiatrist, all of that, and as well as studied it. And the greatest gift was like me being alone and learning that I needed the right foods.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so interesting. And I think as well that food has a really great impact on the mental health. I mean, I don't, because I went vegan quite young, so I think I still have all of those learning processes ahead of me. So I went through really dark times on raw food. And but I think that raw food helped me to get through it. So, for
Yeah,
example, when I had a breakup from my ex-boyfriend, I was really sad. But I think that raw food helped me to get kind of on a higher mood, easier, or
yeah,
to help me get through it. I think so. So yeah,
I would think so. too, because your mood sits constantly up here as opposed to when you be hit and you're already down
Yeah,
here. So you're already, and already you're on cooked foods, you already have this stressed brain, right? I remember just having my brain like all the time. So anything more that came is just like another punch, right?
yeah,
And then when you're thinking clearly and you're present, is it's harder to, just because you're more present, right? When you're going for a walk, your brain doesn't drift off and have memories of your boyfriend all the time. I have found, and I've been through a lot of trauma, is I've only had, since being on raw foods, two, they're not breakdowns, but days of crying where
yeah,
I've been triggered, and they were early on still. So they were in the first 6 months, 2 days where I couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't stop crying. I'd go for walks, sit by nature. Besides that, I have not had PTSD, and I had the worst PTSD. My PTSD was so bad that I was flopped over from the waist down in my psychologist's office, and she said they've never seen since World War One where you had shell shock occur. I could hear
yeah,
people, I couldn't move, and she said this is shell shock. She goes, nobody has seen it since World War One, but I couldn't talk, I couldn't move. Whether it was a lot going on, but to go from that to not having any anymore. And it's not just myself either. So I'm a coach, and people that come to me are usually very sick,
yeah,
like me. They've given up, and they've got, or they've heard that I've had all this mental health problems. The first thing that goes, that when I coach, if you could see the first phone call to the last phone call in a 7-week period, it's like different people. The first thing that clears up is their mental health.
yeah,
Usually ailments can kind of float back in, resurface a bit as they're healing. But I swear to God, every person, it's like the clarity that comes. Like it's really true. It's like, that's why I say it's like cooked food is like a
yeah.
darkness.
Yeah, I agree so much. I think it's so easy to numb yourself with like cooked food, and then when you go vegan, everything comes to the surface. I agree, but it really helps. I think that so many people that I've talked with who were kind of in a maybe depressive mood, they started eating raw food, and it kind of cleared up. But I think it's also because they maybe start to change, like it gives them hope. Raw food maybe gives them hope for a change in their life, and then they
Yeah.
maybe also influences other areas of their life. So, for example, with cooked food, I think if I'm on a cooked food diet, I don't really want to move so much. I'm really good. But when I'm on a raw vegan diet, I have so much energy, so I want to move. And I can imagine that people who are maybe in a depressive kind
Mm.
of time in their life and they don't want to exercise so much, and then they go raw vegan, they have so much energy, so they want to move, and maybe it helps as well for them to to break that darkness a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. The other thing I like to think of is when we are really truthful with ourselves, like really honest, is, and this is how I got well, right? Is I'd worked out that most things in life have an element of hurt and pain. So, you eat a lolly, it might give you a buzz for a second, but you're very aware that that's bad, right?
Yeah.
You might eat pasta, which is healthy, but there's still things in it that you're like, I'm having the oil, I'm having the salt. This is how I was so desperate. The only true time that we as people, everyone has got to agree with me here, is what I think is, don't feel bad or guilty, is when you eat fruit at a beach. Like, not just at a beach, but this is my memories, right? Is I have these memories where eating fruit, I never felt bad. I never felt
Yeah.
bad after. If I ate it in the sun, I felt even better.
Yeah.
Everything that I've ever ingested has had some sort of negative thought patterns that come with it, right? And as I said to you in the presentation, is the first thing that cleared or came through and really healed me, the truth of the healing, was that voice in my head changed when I ate raw foods. It
I agree.
stopped being judgy. It stopped being down here, judgy, talking. Did you eat that? Now you got to go for a run. What are you thinking of? Oh, now I'm going to go lay down. It was literally calmed and was just talking to me like, this is nice. I feel good. My skin looks better. And from there, that voice was what it just, whoever I used to be went, and that kept coming. But I love salads. but truly it came, what my epiphany was, is the only times in my life I felt guilt-free, felt good during, and felt good after was fruit. And you know that it was basically more salads that I was like all into when I first started, but
Yeah.
that was where it kind of started. I wanted to be, I had mental health, physical problems, I had nothing, I was at rock bottom, and to know that I could feel a little bit better was kind of, that was like, do you agree? Do you think that fruit in the sun is just...
It's the best. It's the best. I think for me, like fruit, nature is the best. Like
Yeah.
the combination of it, for me, like I feel that people who go raw vegan or mostly raw vegan fruit based automatically, and they do it a couple of years, automatically they feel the urge to be more in nature. And I felt for me the same. I mean, I'm really young and I think I'm more extroverted, so I think a couple of years ago I really liked to go partying, and now I really like to go to the park and to be in nature. So
Um,
it's really interesting
yeah.
how the food you eat, it really does change you in my opinion,
Yeah.
positive ways. So yeah, I
Well,
agree completely.
it's kind of like when you think about it, a computer, right? You get a computer and it's got like the hard drive and stuff in it, but it's not really going to do much until you add the software, right? Like
Yeah,
it's that. So it's like, think of the food as the software, right? We get our genetics, which is like the hardware, and it's all inside us. But the real magic doesn't happen until you put the software in and you know, wire everything up. It's like that, right? We know that everything in the world, what you put in, you get out. Like every single situation, except we forget to apply it to ourselves, right? When it comes to food, it's like, no, that works for everything except no us. Like the amount of times when I was growing up when the food would come up, even about skin, like someone would have bad acne and then the naturopath has taken them off milk, and the amount of research and study that goes into proving that food has nothing to do with it,
it's
it's all
crazy.
hormones. Well, okay, what makes our hormones go out? How are we in a world where nothing functions? Like the last person I was talking to, it literally was saying how normal it is to have a doctor. Like it's literally, you know, and as you get older, you have one for your arm, leg, back,
Yeah,
arthritis,
yeah,
heart, and that's so normal, isn't
it's
it?
so
It's
normal.
just so scary.
Yeah, I agree so much. I think that now in the society we live in today, it is normal to the last 10 to 20 years of your life to just every couple of days or maybe every 3 days you go to a doctor, you go to another doctor. And for my grandma, for example, is how she likes to spend her day. So it's kind of social to go to the doctor. But I'm like, no, like that's why I eat raw food because I want to feel alive and have energy and be in a relatively
Yeah.
good health even when I'm older, so that I
Yeah.
don't need to, that I can, for example, still do things that I love and that not going to the doctor is my social activity.
That
Yeah,
is true. That's such a good point. And I've seen that too, is when you become raw, so when before going raw is, if I got better, I thought I wanted to be on, you know, going to fancy places with fancy
yeah,
things. And that's all stimulation. It's not true
yeah,
happiness. My greatest joy, and I believe as soon as people go vegan, is once you put more plants inside of you, nature talks to you. So, and it's how we should be, right? We should be these spiritual, physical, yet spiritual, enlightened beings who are feeling everything. And that's like, that's what I'm like now, but I feel I found raw foods because of that feeling that comes where you want to be out in the sun. You can't not look at the flowers as you walk past them as a vegan. Like it's like you've got
yeah,
these plants there, they want to reconnect back to the plants, and the greatest connection is once you're raw, everything is just like, just all the whole world just lights up into a different, like a fairy tale.
yeah, I agree so much. I think you said it so beautifully, actually. And I really enjoy so much talking to you. And by the way, before I forget, I think you look really vibrant. So it's really cool to see. Yeah,
Oh,
you look really beautiful, really vibrant. It's so cool to see the transformation, to see the before picture, the afterwards picture. It's so great to see. So
oh,
thank you.
oh.
Before we, because we're talking already a little bit, I wanted to ask you just some short questions, some fun short.
Sure.
So first question, what are your three favorite fruit that you really like?
Okay. At the moment, It's grapes.
Yeah.
I went on a grape to heal a tooth, and so I'm still eating grapes, but it's because they're in season. I love papaya. I fell in love with
Yeah.
durian. So when I was just in Bali, I was like all in. I guess it changes. It really does change, but I'd say those are my three go-to fruits.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Yeah, I've read also there's a book, The Grape Cure. It's a really
Yes,
interesting book. Yeah, it's a great book. And
I,
durian I love as well. So good.
it is so good.
And
Yeah, I read Grape Cure, and then that's what led me to do the grapes, and then it
yeah,
healed. It did a lot of work.
yeah,
So
I can
that's why we
imagine.
share, right?
Yeah, that's a great. And before we end this live, I just want very quickly to say again for those people who have not yet bought the bundle, go to Skye's or my bio and buy the Ravian bundle. It's really a really great offer. It's so cheap when you see all the value that is inside the Ravian bundle, like so many e-courses. I think it will, when you buy the Ravian bundle, it will take you so much time to, because there's so much volume of information and inspiration and recipes, and I think it really does help you. I think that a Bavarian diet, it is something, in my opinion, that you have to study a little bit. You have to learn a little bit how you do it, how you eat enough, and how to make delicious recipes. So I think that if you have something like the Bavarian bundle, it can really help you to learn it and to go that path a little bit easily. Like my English is a little bit,
No, I think that was beautifully said. It's like it's there to help
yeah,
you on your course. It's your journey, but your journey will be a lot easier when you have a whole lot of recipes, a whole lot of support, whole lot of ideas in one bundle. It's only $50.
yeah,
So go check it out. There's only like 1 day left. You can get the deal.
exactly. And before we end this live, I just really quickly, the last question, want to ask you, do you have any affirmation that you really like, that really helped you maybe? Is there something, or just a quote that you really like?
Yeah, I love me so much. I love you, Skye, so much. I started saying that with actual passion and love and so much open heart when I started healing. It really makes a difference to who you are and how you interact with other people every day. Once you fall in love with yourself, you really fall in love with everything in the world.
I love that so much. I think that's a journey that I'm on to
Oh,
see
good.
love. And so I think that there's this quote, everything is love. And I think that once you, as you said, fall in love with yourself, you can see it. And yeah,
You can.
I'm working on that.
Oh, good. That is really important, even if it's just at night when you get into bed and you're alone, or even if you're with your partner or whatever, and any time you can and you feel good about it, because it will like reverberate when you're around people, when you're around animals, and it makes even if things don't go all so well, you can still say that to yourself, and this feeling comes over you that you love
I
you.
love that so much. I think that's also the foundation of a really good life, that you
Mm,
love yourself. And that's why you eat healthy. You don't eat raw vegan
yes.
because you want to like meet a certain expectation or label, whatever. No, you eat raw vegan or fresh fruit and veggies and healthy food because you love yourself and you want to do something good for yourself, right? So
That's right. I like that. That was well said.
yeah. Okay, then yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much for this, for this interview, for this discussion. I enjoyed it so, so, so much. So thank you so.
Me too, Eva, and have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.